Once upon a time there were two families, the Montagues and the Capulets. The two families had been rivals for a long time. Whenever they saw each other in the streets, a fight broke out. Romeo Montague was in love with a woman who did not love him back. He was feeling down, so his cousin, Benvolio, and his friend, Mercutio, convinced him to go to a party with the Capulets in disguise. Benvolio wanted Romeo to see all the other beautiful girls of Verona. At the party, Romeo saw Juliet and instantly fell in love with her. Even though Romeo was masked, Tybalt Capulet, a hot-headed young man who despised Romeo, recognized him. Just as Tybalt prepared to draw his sword, Lord Capulet stepped in and soothed Tybalt's anger. Romeo and Juliet danced the night away until Juliet's nurse interrupted them with a message from Juliet's mother. Romeo learned that he was in love with the Capulet and Juliet with a Montague. Later that night, Juliet stepped onto her balcony to find Romeo waiting below. "What light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun." After much discussion, they agreed to put their names aside and marry. Good night, parting is such sweet sorrow, that I shall say good night till it be morrow." And with that, Romeo was off. At dawn the following day, Romeo asked the friar to marry them. "They stumble that run fast, and yet I will help you in this cause for one reason. By this marriage we may put an end to the war between your houses." While Romeo was away, Benvolio received a note for Romeo. It was a challenge from Tybalt. Later that day, the young lovers met with the friar to perform the ceremony in secret. As Romeo made his way home, he ran into Tybalt, who was battling Benvolio and Mercutio. As Romeo stepped in to defend his friends, Tybalt lunged to stab Romeo, but missed and sank his sword into Mercutio. "Plague on both your houses! You've made worms meat of me!" And with that, he let out his final breath. Romeo was furious. He leapt back into battle with Tybalt, and soon Tybalt was laying dead on the ground. As Romeo left the scene of the fight, the Prince of Verona arrived and banished Romeo from the city of Verona. Juliet caught wind of Romeo's punishment and wept all night. Meanwhile, back at the palace, Lord Capulet had arranged for Lord Paris to take Juliet's hand in marriage the following week. As dawn appeared, the two young lovers were hand in hand in Juliet's room. "Will you be gone so soon? It was the nightingale you heard, not the lark." "It was the lark, the herald of the morn. Night's candles have burnt out. I must be gone and live or stay and die." And with their last goodbyes being said, Romeo disappeared over the balcony and into the forest. Juliet was miserable without Romeo, so she went to the friar to receive advice. The friar had a plan. Juliet would drink a potion to make her appear dead and get out of marrying Lord Paris. The friar would notify Romeo of the plan and have him rescue Juliet at her tomb. The morning of her wedding, Juliet took a sip of the potion. "Romeo, I drink to thee." When her nurse came to wake her, she was lifeless on the floor. All of the wedding preparations turned into funeral preparations. Miles away in Mantua, Romeo heard of Juliet's death. Romeo hadn't received the friar's note. He went to an apothecary's shop and bought a swift-acting potion. "I defy you, stars! Juliet, I will sleep by thy side tonight." And with his potion in hand, he raced to Juliet's deathbed immediately. When Romeo reached the Capulet's tomb, he found Lord Paris mourning over Juliet. Lord Paris was fuming when he saw Romeo enter the tomb, as he thought Romeo was there to vandalize it. A quarrel broke out between the two men and ended with Lord Paris dying on the ground. Romeo rushed to Juliet's side and gave her one last embrace. Then he raised the poison to his lips and instantly lay dead beside his wife. Juliet awoke to find her husband poisoned beside her. Finding not a drop left in the bottle, Juliet drew Romeo's dagger. "O happy dagger, this is thy sheath. There rust and let me die," and she sunk the blade into her heart. The loss of the young lovers brought an end to the feuding between the families. never was a story of more woe than